Hey everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video where we're going to be creating two different cards using embossing folders. So I'm going to share a couple of different techniques using new products from Simon Says Stamp's Let's Chill collection. Before I get into the video though, I did want to mention that today's video is part of Simon Says Stamp's Let's Chill Release blog hop. So if you want to participate in the hop, see more inspiration using the new Let's Chill collection, and also even get some prizes, be sure to check out the link in the video description to my blog, or if you're already on my blog, scroll down to the bottom of the post and you'll get all the details on the hop. All right, so let's jump into the cards, and we're going to start first with this super bright sunflower card. I absolutely love the new Sunflower Field embossing folder. It's a 3D embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp, and it actually does come with a coordinating die that you can use to cut out the sunflowers. But I'm not going to be using the die today. I'm just going to use the embossing folder. And I have a piece of white cardstock. I'm going to spray the cardstock with water just to kind of moisten the paper a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is because when you emboss with an embossing folder, especially something this dimensional, if you add water to the paper just a little bit, it will soften the paper and it'll take the embossing so much easier and you won't have any paper cracking. So I've run this through my die cut machine to emboss the paper, and you can see how beautiful this texture is. I'm going to start ink blending over top of this background to really color in those sunflowers, and we're going to make a really nice bright background. I'm starting first with Lemonade ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is one of their positively saturated ink colors, and I'm going to color every single sunflower with that color. Then I'm going to bring in a small blending brush. This is a brand new detail blending brush from Simon Says Stamp, and there's a whole rainbow of them, just like the original blending brushes that Simon Says Stamp came out with last year. So I'm going to use the flat version of this brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to feather the ink from the center of the sunflower towards the outer petals. But I'm not going to color the whole sunflower, obviously. I'm just shading it. And that's what's really cool about these detail blending brushes, is that they're so small they can get into the tiniest of areas and give you super control when you're ink blending something like this. So I did a bit of shading around the inner portions of the petals, and now I'm going to color the centers of all of those sunflowers. This time I'm using the round detail blending brush, which is perfect for circular ink blending, very similar to what we do with our larger blending brushes. I really like the flat one for more of a brushing technique, and I'll show you another version of ink blending using that flat blending brush, and we're going to do some shading very similar to what we did for the sunflowers, but instead on butterflies. So after I did a bit of orange ink blending in the centers, I'm going to shade that with the new Woodsy ink color, part of the Positively Saturated ink line. It's a beautiful brown, and of course it comes in a trio, so there's two other browns to go with it. So I made two of those backgrounds because I really liked the technique and I really liked how the background turned out, and I figured I could set one aside and use it for something else later on. I'm just going to use one of the backgrounds today, and this one I'm covering with some red line tape because we're going to make an edge-to-edge shaker card. So I've covered all four sides with a line of tape, and I'm going to remove the release paper on that tape from 3 sides only. Then I have a piece of stamp packaging here, and we're going to use that as the wrap that goes around the background, and that's going to form a pocket that our sequins can sit inside of. So I'm going to fold over 3 of those edges, and of course we have the one end open so that we can fill it with some sequins. I pulled out these bright yellow and orange sequins from a Simon Says Stamp mix. I really liked how they looked with the beautiful sunflower colors. And then I also brought in some sparkling flowers. These are clear, they're very flat, but they add a nice bit of shimmer, and I liked the fact that they were shaped like a flower. All right, so we're going to remove that final release paper from that last edge of red line tape, and we're just going to fold that over to enclose all the sequins in place. I'll set my background aside, and I'm going to ink blend on top of another piece of white cardstock. I wanted to create a custom blend of colors that matched nicely with the sunflower background that I could then die cut a sentiment from. So I have the lemonade color, I also have sherbet, which is a beautiful orange, and then I'm going to transition from sherbet into peony, and that'll create a really nice warm, beautiful orange at the bottom. So that pink also looks really good with the pink in the sequins that we threw inside of the shaker card. So as you can see, I die cut this just because sentiment, and it's going to have its coordinating shadow underneath of it. I also die cut the sentiment itself twice more from white cardstock. The reason is because I want to stack up the sentiment that I had colored with the ink a little bit off of the shadow. So by taking two other pieces of that just because and stacking them together with adhesive, then I'm going to get a dimensional sentiment. And the adhesive I'm using today is some microdot sheets from Simon Says Stamp. I absolutely love using these for stacking sentiments because it just makes it so much faster and I don't have to worry about glue squishing around the edges. It's just so convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and stack up the Just Because white die cuts on top of the shadow, and then I'll go ahead and add adhesive on the back side of my colored sentiment and glue that right on top of the white ones. So now we'll have some nice dimension for that greeting off of the shadow layer. And if you're interested in any of the products that I'm using today, including the sentiment, the embossing folder, the adhesive, all that stuff is linked below in the video description as well as over on the blog. Okay, so this little sentiment here is from the new Just Groovy sentiment strips, part of the Let's Chill collection. And I really liked the sentiment, "You're so fab," because I thought it paired up really nicely with the Just Because. So I'll pop that up onto my card with a bit of foam tape, and then I'll just glue this entire thing right down on top of an A2 side folding card. So here is my finished card. I love how bright and intense these colors are. It's a super cheery card. Alrighty, so we did a bit of ink blending and made a shaker card. Why don't we do a bit more ink blending on embossing folder designs, but this time we're gonna die cut them. So that sunflower field background, that had a coordinating die and I didn't use it, but I'm going to show you how to use those coordinating dies with an embossing folder using this graceful butterfly embossing folder and coordinating dies. So here's the folder. You can see it has all the pieces that you need to build your beautiful butterflies. I absolutely love the detail on them. They're so intricate. And then of course there are coordinating dies that perfectly cut each of these shapes out. Now here is what I recommend. I think it gives you the best results when you die cut first and then emboss. So what I'm doing is I die cut all these butterflies in their pieces from some white cardstock. And the easy part about this is that you can just simply nestle those die cuts right into the impressed area of the embossing folder. It basically fits in almost like a puzzle piece. And then I just use a piece of tape to hold them down so that they don't shift when I run this through my die cut machine to emboss. This, first off, is so easy, but two, it allows the embossed design to not get smushed when you run your piece through the die cut machine. So if you were to emboss these butterflies first and then try to die cut them, the embossing is not going to be as deep. You're going to flatten it out a little bit because of the pressure. So I really liked how this turned out, and I'm going to ink blend these butterflies using very similar shades to what I did for the sunflower background, and then I'm going to pull in some new purples to ink blend another set of butterflies. So I'm adding ink on the outer edges and then in the center with Simon Says Stamp's large blending brushes. Now I'm going to pull in those detail blending brushes. And I'm going to use the flat one. You can see how it compares to the round. The round one is circular and of course has a bit more of a denser set of bristles, whereas this one has a very thin line of bristles that are perfect for sweeping across things. So here I'm going to just gently feather ink from the center out to the edges, and because I'm not pressing hard, it's only really inking up mostly the raised areas of the butterfly. So you can see the difference. The butterfly on the right has had the detail blending brush add ink on those raised areas, and the one on the left has not. I'm adding it now. And that's going to create some great contrast. I'll do the same thing all over again, this time with blue. I used some surf ink and then the new iris. I loved how this purple paired up with the blue. And I'm just sweeping that across the butterfly. I did focus a little bit more of that ink in the middle section of the butterfly because I really wanted to have some of that intense color on the butterfly as well as on the raised areas. So I have some of the new rose gold cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. It's part of the Let's Chill release. And this beautiful cardstock worked perfectly for die cutting the little center bodies of each of the butterflies. So I'll just glue those down onto each one. And that nice rose gold metallic just shines on top of those butterflies. we'll add some additional sparkle to make these butterflies even more sparkly. So I'm going to pull out that sunflower field embossing folder once more, and this time I'm going to use it as a background for the butterflies. So of course I made sure to spray the paper before I embossed it, and now we have this really nice subtle texture that's going to go behind the butterflies. I'm just using liquid glue to attach the butterflies down, focusing the adhesive only in the center portions of the butterflies because I want the wings to be dimensional, and we'll add some foam tape behind their wings to further enhance that dimension. Onto my A2 sized card, I'm going to put some foam tape and then attach my sunflower field background that is covered with butterflies right down on top. So we have a little bit of dimension going here. Here's where I brought in some small pieces of foam tape and tucked them around the outer edges of the wings, so that way the butterfly wings will be popped up, but the body will be glued straight down onto the card. Now that I have all the butterflies attached, we are ready to add some embellishment. I'm pulling in some clear adhesive. You could use glossy accents, or in this case, I'm using Ultra Bond. And we're just going to put adhesive on the outer edges of all the butterflies' wings. That adhesive is going to be perfect for capturing some glitter. I'm using Simon Says Stamp Unicorn Dust and Unicorn Confetti to sprinkle that glitter over top of the adhesive. So what's going to happen is by sprinkling, I'm not going to have a complete coverage of either one of the glitters, but rather I'll have an organic look with this glitter. So I'll have it sprinkled throughout the butterflies, and it looks really pretty. To add a bit of interest to the background, I thought I would pull in some clear sequins and just glue these in and around the butterflies, kind of tucking some underneath certain areas. And I really liked how the clear sequins just added an extra bit of sparkle but weren't too distracting. Once I have the sequins attached, I'm basically just about done. We only need a sentiment now. So I'm going to pull out this new stamp set. It's actually one I designed for the Let's Chill release. It's called Butterfly Dreams. I haven't had a chance to use it yet except for one of the sentiments, but I'm excited to make something with it at some point here. So I took one of the sentiments that says "You're going to fly," and I'm stamping it onto black cardstock. Then with some white embossing powder, I'll sprinkle that over top and heat set the sentiment, so that way I have a nice bright greeting on top of this dark cardstock, which will stand out amongst the butterflies. I used my fine tip scissors to cut the sentiment out, and then I'm just going to use some foam tape to attach it down right on top of one of the butterfly's wings. This sentiment tucked up perfectly against the butterflies here, and it was a perfect spot to place it. I just love how this card turned out. It has so much sparkle and dimension with not only the embossed designs, but then adding that ink blending with the detail blending brushes really brought those embossed areas to life. So I hope you were inspired by the ideas that I've shared today with the sunflower card and now this butterfly one, using these new products from Simon Says Stamp, and particularly the embossing folders and ink blending with the detail blending brushes. If you enjoyed today's video, I sure hope you'll give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd love to have you stay tuned for more crafty videos that I have upcoming. Until I see you all again, I hope everyone has a fabulous day, and thanks so much for watching.